In the early years of the 20th century, the world believed it had entered a new age of progress. Technology, science, and industry moved at incredible speed. Nations were linked by telegraph lines, trade routes, railways, and towering ocean liners that crossed the Atlantic with breathtaking elegance. Among these giants of the sea stood one ship that symbolized this modern era more than any other. RMS Lusitania, the pride of the Cunard Line, a floating masterpiece of luxury, power, and engineering brilliance. But on May 7th, 1915, the Lusitania's journey across the Atlantic would end in disaster, death, and worldwide shock. Struck by a single torpedo from a German U-boat, the 32,000-ton liner vanished beneath the waves in just 18 minutes, taking with it nearly 1,200 lives. It became one of the most defining tragedies of World War I, a moment that transformed public opinion, shook governments, and set the stage for the United States' eventual entry into the war. This documentary tells the complete story. Not just how the Lusitania sank, but why it happened, the political tensions behind the voyage, the secrets carried on board. The warnings ignored, the decisions made in Berlin, London, and Washington, and the long debate over whether the ship was a victim of war or a planned provocation. This is the real, full history of the Lusitania, a story of global conflict, human tragedy, espionage, and the moment the modern world realized that war no longer stayed on the battlefield. Before the First World War erupted, the Lusitania represented peace. Launched in 1906, she was one of the fastest and most celebrated ships afloat. With her elegant design, luxurious rooms, sweeping decks, and remarkable speed, she crossed the Atlantic in less than 5 days. To the wealthy and powerful, she symbolized comfort and prestige. To immigrants and workers seeking new lives in America, she represented hope. But behind this image of beauty, the world was changing. Europe had become a battlefield. Germany and Great Britain were locked in a violent struggle for power, on land, in the air, and especially at sea. The British Royal Navy blocked German ports. In response, Germany turned to a new weapon: submarines, or U-boats, which prowled the Atlantic hunting enemy ships. In early 1915, Germany issued a chilling message. Any British ship sailing into the war zone around the British Isles risked being destroyed without warning. This included passenger liners. Still, the Lusitania continued to sail. Many believed no civilized nation would attack a ship filled with civilians. Many believed Germany would not cross that line. But the war was changing rapidly, and old rules no longer applied. On May 1st, 1915, nearly 2,000 passengers boarded the Lusitania in New York. Among them were businessmen, families, children, writers, workers, and citizens from multiple nations. Some were returning home. Some were fleeing the war. Some believed the Atlantic was still safe. But that very morning, German diplomats in New York placed a public warning in several American newspapers. It stated that any ship flying the British flag was a potential target in the war zone, and passengers traveled at their own risk. The warning appeared directly beneath Cunard's advertisement for the Lusitania's departure. Most travelers ignored it. Some laughed at the idea. The ship was too fast, too famous, too respected. The Germans, they believed, would never dare attack it. As the Lusitania left New York Harbor, she carried wealthy elite families with children, workers returning to Europe, dozens of Americans. and secret cargo the public did not know about. Crossing the Atlantic during wartime required careful navigation. As the ship approached the coast of Ireland, Captain William Turner slowed the vessel due to heavy fog and underwater risks. But this decision made the ship more vulnerable, and a German submarine named U-20 waited in those waters. On May 7, 1915, the sea around Southern Ireland was calm. Visibility was clear. From periscopes beneath the waves, German U-boat Commander Walter Schwieger spotted an enormous four-funnel ship approaching. He knew immediately what it was. The Lusitania. Schwieger had been ordered to target British ships supplying the war effort. The Lusitania, although a passenger ship, was believed by Germany to also be carrying war materials, ammunition, and supplies for the British military. At 10 p.m., U-20 fired a single torpedo. The weapon struck the Lusitania on the starboard side. A massive explosion followed, stronger than the torpedo alone could produce. The ship began to list sharply. Panicked passengers rushed to the decks. Lifeboats swung wildly as the angle increased. Some lifeboats could not be lowered at all. Others capsized as terrified families attempted to escape. For many on board, the terror lasted only minutes. Within 80 minutes, the Lusitania slipped beneath the surface. 1,198 people lost their lives. Men, women, children, British, Irish, Canadians, and 128 Americans. Survivors described the chaos, the screams, the cold water, the overturned boats, the bodies floating among debris, the silence afterward. It was one of the fastest and deadliest sinkings in maritime history. News of the sinking spread instantly across Europe and America. Newspapers printed headlines in bold, emotional language. Photographs of victims, including children, covered front pages. The world reacted with outrage. In Germany, some celebrated the attack as a legitimate strike against Britain. In Britain, anger and grief filled the streets. In the United States, shock turned toward fury. President Woodrow Wilson, who had kept America neutral, now faced enormous pressure. Many Americans demanded war. Others urged caution. Wilson protested Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare but did not immediately declare war. Still, the Lusitania tilted American opinion decisively against Germany. And years later, when the United States finally entered World War I, the memory of the Lusitania played a major role in rallying public support. The tragedy also sparked a lasting political debate. Did Britain ignore warnings? Did the Admiralty fail to protect the ship? Was the Lusitania secretly carrying weapons, making it a target under international law? Why was her escort removed? Why was she not warned of U-20's exact location? For decades, historians have argued over these questions, making the Lusitania not just a tragedy, but a mystery. In the years after the sinking, the story of the Lusitania continued to evolve. Evidence emerged that the ship was carrying military cargo, small arms, ammunition, shell casings, and other supplies. Britain insisted it was legal and did not justify the attack. Germany argued it proved the Lusitania was a legitimate target. Survivor accounts, naval reports, and political speeches turned the tragedy into a symbol of innocence lost, of modern war's brutality, and of the thin line between civilian life and military conflict. The wreck of the Lusitania still rests off the Irish coast, slowly deteriorating. Divers who have explored the site describe twisted metal, decaying decks, and the remains of a ship that once represented human progress. now a silent monument to the darker realities of war. The Lusitania changed the world. It changed public opinion. It changed the direction of American foreign policy, and it proved that in the modern era, no part of the world, not even the open ocean, was safe from the reach of global conflict. Today, the sinking of the Lusitania stands as a reminder. War does not always stay on the battlefield, and when nations fight, it is often ordinary people who pay the highest price.